The flickering glow of his laptop screen cast long shadows across Liam's cramped apartment, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy that had once pulsed through him just months prior. Graduation had been a blur of handshakes and hollow promises, and now the digital abyss of job boards felt more like a black hole. Days bled into weeks, each rejection email a fresh sting. Desperation, a gnawing beast, had begun to dictate his online wanderings. It was during one of these late-night dives, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the metallic tang of anxiety, that he stumbled upon it. A link, innocuous yet intriguing, buried deep within a forum he shouldn't have been on. It led him down a rabbit hole, a descent into the shadowy underbelly of the internet, the dark web. Here, anonymity was king, and illicit knowledge flowed like poisoned wine. He'd been scrolling through threads, a morbid curiosity his only guide, when a title caught his eye. The Art of the Paper Chase, Mastering the Modern Check. Intrigued and frankly bored enough to explore anything that promised a distraction from his mounting debt, Liam clicked. What unfolded was a meticulously detailed guide, a step-by-step manual that promised to unlock a world of financial opportunity. The initial sections were surprisingly academic, dissecting the anatomy of a legitimate check. Liam learned about the specialized paper, its weight, its texture, the subtle watermarks that were nearly impossible to replicate. He delved into the intricacies of magnetic ink, the chemical compounds that allowed machines to read the routing and account numbers. It was a crash course in forgery, presented with the sterile precision of a university lecture. Then came the practical application. The guide spoke of graphic design software, not for creating fantastical art, but for the meticulous replication of bank logos, the precise spacing of fonts, and the subtle shading that mimicked authentic security features. Liam, a decent amateur photographer in college, found himself surprisingly adept at manipulating images, learning to scan and refine details with a newfound, albeit unsettling, purpose. The tutorials on creating digital templates were intricate. They explained how to layer elements, how to adjust opacity to simulate the faint ghosting of a watermark, and how to ensure the alignment of the printed numbers was perfect. He learned about different types of printers, the importance of high-resolution output, and the art of finding the right paper stock, a specific blend that mimicked the feel of genuine bank checks. The guide even offered tips on sourcing specialized inks, suggesting obscure online suppliers that operated in the same shadowy corners of the web. Liam's initial foray was tentative. He spent days practicing, printing countless blank checks, his room slowly filling with discarded attempts. The process was tedious, requiring immense patience and a keen eye for detail. He'd scrutinized legitimate checks he'd acquired, a stray receipt from a grocery store, an old bill, comparing every line, every curve, every shade of blue. His first successful attempt was a small amount, a test run on a local gas station. The cashier barely glanced at it, the transaction smooth, almost anticlimactic. A thrill, cold and sharp, shot through him. It was the feeling of crossing a threshold, of stepping into a clandestine world where the rules were different. Emboldened, Liam refined his technique. He learned to create checks that looked impossibly real, complete with all the security features the guide had detailed. He started small, cashing them at different businesses, diversifying his locations to avoid drawing attention. The money trickled in at first, then began to flow. He bought better equipment, a high-end scanner, a professional-grade printer, a wider array of inks. His apartment, once a symbol of his struggle, transformed into a makeshift operation. He established a routine, meticulously crafting each check, then carefully depositing them or cashing them at various locations. The thrill of the chase was replaced by a grim satisfaction, a sense of control he hadn't felt in months. The amounts grew larger. He learned to create checks for hundreds, then thousands of dollars. He was careful, never cashing more than one in a single location on the same day, varying the businesses he targeted. He studied the faces of the tellers, the security measures of the stores, always looking for the path of least resistance. Liam was living a double life. By day, he'd send out a few more job applications, a hollow performance for the outside world. By night, he was a phantom, a craftsman of illicit currency, amassing a fortune that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The $100,000 mark was an abstract concept at first, a number he'd seen in the guide as a potential target. Now, it was a tangible reality, the balance in a series of newly opened, untraceable bank accounts. He started to feel the pressure, the paranoia. A constant hum in the background began to intensify. Every siren he heard, every unfamiliar car that idled on his street, sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He knew this couldn't last. The dark web, for all its anonymity, was a dangerous playground. Eventually, the game would catch up. The first hint of trouble came not from the police, but from a sharp-eyed bank teller who'd noticed a pattern in a series of deposits. A quiet inquiry, a discreet investigation, and suddenly, Liam's carefully constructed world began to crumble. He received a call from a detective, a calm, measured voice asking him about his recent financial activities. Liam, adrenaline surging, feigned ignorance. He'd anticipated this, of course. The guide had warned of the possibility of detection, but had offered little in the way of escape. He knew his best chance was to outrun the evidence, to disappear before they could build a solid case. He packed a bag, a hastily assembled collection of essentials, and fled his apartment. He drove for hours, the city lights receding in his rearview mirror, a knot of fear tightening in his stomach. He was on the run, the money he'd so carefully accumulated now a burden, a constant reminder of his transgression. He bounced between cheap motels, always looking over his shoulder. The fear was a suffocating blanket, making sleep a luxury he could rarely afford. He'd see police cars, and his heart would pound, convinced they were coming for him. Then the call came. The detective again. Liam braced himself for the handcuffs, the interrogation, the inevitable prison sentence. But the tone was different this time, almost apologetic. "Mr. Hayes," the detective began, "we've been looking into the checks you've been depositing. We found a number of them, but here's the thing. The paper used, the inks, they're incredibly sophisticated. We can't definitively prove they were forged. The technology you used, or rather the technology that was used to create them, is so advanced we can't get a conclusive link back to you. Frankly, we don't have enough evidence to press charges." Liam listened, stunned. The dark web's treasures had provided him with not only the means to commit the crime, but also the means to escape its consequences. The sophistication of the forgery, the very thing that had allowed him to amass his fortune, had also become his shield. He was let go. No charges, no arrest, just a stern warning to be more careful with his finances in the future. As he walked away, the vast sum of money still in his accounts, a ghost of a fortune earned through a chillingly effective digital illusion. The experience had changed him, leaving him with a profound and unsettling understanding of the hidden vulnerabilities in the systems we take for granted. He had walked into the dark web seeking a job, and instead he had found a more lucrative and far more dangerous path.